nice organizing and being a part of this program. I feel good because many of the organizers actually belong to the family of Periyar University, and I'm really glad to deliver a session on this organization psychology, trends and advancements. Right. Yeah. So we are. Shall I actually start my presentation now?
Yes, sir. Please.
Yeah. So am I audible enough?
Yes. Yes.
Yeah. Right. Okay. So we are actually in a very unexpectedly interesting game of things that has actually happened because of Corona. And we would not have actually thought of this kind of conference or actually seminar or whatever it is if it is not for the pandemic. And research, whatever that research that I was actually reading about how the transformation has happened over a period of time. If the Corona had not actually happened, or actually pandemic had not actually come, it would have actually taken at least 10 years for a country like India to have this kind of a conference or a workshop or a event. 10 years it would have taken, because before the pandemic, we were actually having lots of educational platforms, meeting platforms, and so many things that we were actually using, but it was actually at the edges, at the corner, not actually as a mainstay. Because of this pandemic, we have actually just fast forwarded 10 years. If Corona was not there, this kind of a program that would have happened 10 years, that is actually somewhere 2030 or something like that. But we have fast forwarded it and we are living it because we don't have any other choice. So in this context, that how relevant this organization behavior or organization psychology or industrial psychology or whatever that we are actually talking about. Okay, so let me actually start with my slides. So once again, I would like to thank the organizers for this opportunity. And the topic that I'm going to discuss today is on organization psychology, trends and advancements. Are you able to see this slide?
No, sir, not yet.
Okay, right. Just. Now is it clear, madam?
Yes, now it is shared. Yes, now it's visible. Thank you.
Yeah. So, the organization psychology, trends and advancements. Yeah. So, this is a bridge which is still there in Honduras. And very interestingly, if you see, why did they actually construct a bridge like this? For what purpose? Fortunately or unfortunately, it stands out as the limitation of human thinking. This is actually the bridge called as Colucheta, okay, in Honduras, and it is considered to be one of the very strongest built bridges in Honduras, which can actually withstand any amount of flood or any amount of natural calamity. They wanted to construct it very beautiful, very sturdy, and beautifully they constructed it. And within 1 year, what happened was, unexpectedly, there was actually a flash flood. And you see what happens. The river bank has become the river, and the river has become the river bank. The river itself has actually changed the course, and the connecting lines to the bridges have been washed away by the flood. And now it gets, it is seen as an exposed, as a limitation of human thinking. And it is an allegory that we can actually say our subjects as such, our understanding of the field, of whatever that we were actually doing hitherto till the arrival of pandemic, it was like this. And suddenly this pandemic comes, and many of the subjects, many of the, the skills, many of the knowledge, they're all actually standing like this, and there is no relevance to the present day context. And it is time that we do something so that we can revive this. Okay, so, and it applies to any other field, and obviously to organization psychology also. And coming to this, organization and organization psychology, these are actually some of the definitions which is actually freely available in the books and actually everywhere. Okay, so organization, and I heard that most of the participants are all undergraduate students, and students mostly, and it has to be as simple as they can understand, they can connect to. So organization is a consciously coordinated social unit where two or more individuals, they actually work with a common goal in mind. That is actually the simplest thing. Okay, and it is a working on a relatively continuous basis. This is what an organization, an understanding, an explanation of organization. Then what is organization psychology? Organization psychology, simply put across, it is a study of human behavior in organizations. And here what happens is that we study about the individuals, we study about the organization structure, we study about the organization as such. Okay, all these things, how it is influencing the human behavior, and understanding that human behavior and trying to apply that human behavior for the effectiveness of the organization's functions. So that is actually the role that we are actually trying to, um, play as organization psychologists. So here we are concerned with the work, workplace, and workforce. Okay, so these are the areas that how we can actually apply psychology, and we can try to do something about this. Now, there is, yeah. So here, what actually organization psychologists to do? And in Western countries, we have actually a degree or organization psychologist. They actually have an exclusive degree organization psychologist. But in a country like India, it is actually many people are actually working in the organization field, okay, as a psychologist, and mostly people who are coming from the HRM background, HRD background, and people who are actually working from coming from applied psychology background, MBA with HR specialization, and humanities and social science background people. They all actually try to call themselves as, unofficially call themselves as organization psychologists or psychologists or industrial psychologists in the workplace setting. And where do we actually find scope? Okay, so as organization psychology means, it is application of psychological principles in the various process of the organization's functioning. So that way, where we psychologists can actually make use of their knowledge is in the area of recruitment, okay, sourcing of people, okay, and selection and placement, training and development, performance appraisal, workplace motivation and reward system, quality of work life, structure of work and human factors, organization development, and consumer behavior. So these are the areas where, okay, organization psychologist or anybody who has the psychological knowledge, skill, or aptitude or ability can actually contribute. Okay, so this is how it was actually carried out till the arrival of Corona. Okay, so it was all actually structured, and psychologists used to, as trainers, they used to go, and as corporate trainers, they used to go to the industries, they used to go to the companies, the organizations, and they actually go and involve themselves, work with the people, and they were actually contributing, okay, like that. Now what happens is things have actually changed differently. Now, so we are in the cusp of change, I say, okay, so normal to new normal. Okay, so we are actually going to be new normal. After the pandemic subsides completely, then we will not be in the normal, back to the normal. We will be in a new normal situation. Everybody knows that. And I have just actually, as a metaphor, that I just actually put this monkey with the banana. This is actually, our behavior is so dynamic, unpredictable most of the time. And we have psychological principles like banana, and we try to actually influence that behavior or actually direct the behavior. So that is what human behavior is like. And technology is like a bird. Okay, it can actually do wonders. It can fly as high as possible and unimaginable. It can do wonders. And human behavior and technology were together, and technology was always actually, what is it, subsuming the human behavior. That is actually, human behavior is actually much better and mostly in control of the technology before the pandemic. Now, with the arrival of pandemic, things have actually changed. Things have actually changed. Now we see that it is, I call it as technological human behavior. Starting from the time that we get up from the bed till we go to the bed, we are constantly involving ourselves with the technology, starting from checking the mobile phone, checking the inboxes, talking to people, commenting, or actually communicating. And almost all the work is actually happening with the help of technology. And that we call it as technoference. Okay, without technology, we cannot actually function. It has come to that kind of an level. So what happens is, it is actually the converged or overlapped or confused, whatever we call it as, that this is, which is actually controlling our behavior. Are we controlling the technology, or technology is controlling us? So we are in that kind of a situation. We find it little difficult. Okay, and that is how it is, that the monkey with the wings, we are actually in that kind of a situation, right? So what is an office? So now we have to revisit the concept of office when you talk about organization psychology, that it is generally understood. Am I actually audible, madam? Is it actually, people are able to hear?
Yes, yes,
Disconnected,
yes,
right? Okay, right.
yes.
Yeah. So what happens is that the office, generally when we talk about office, immediately we have an idea, some image of a geographical location or a physical setup pops up in our mind when we talk about our office or our college or our classroom or whatever that we talk. Immediately the image pops up in the mind. That is what we think office is. Okay, it is a geographical space where work is done. So when we go there, we will actually work. All right, so we all actually, from morning to evening, we work there for 8 hours, 10 hours, or 12 hours, or depending upon what is the nature of work and where we are working and all those decide. So that is the office. The idea of office is a geographical place. It is actually where we work. Now, what happens is, it has actually changed, right? Where is the office now? Where is the office now? I'm sitting at my home, and most of you might be at home. But we are actually doing what we are supposed to be doing in an office space or in an education setting or whatever institution or whatever it is. So IT and ITES and e-commerce companies have asked, this is actually the statistics, okay, from the the survey, that almost 90% of the companies have asked their staff to work from home. Earlier it was a very rare thing, but now it is mandatory. It has become actually, order of the day. 90% of the workforce are working from home. And you see that many of the metros have been vacated because of the corona. That 65% of the people have actually gone back to the metros and they are working from home. And 35% of the people have moved outside the metro. So we would have actually read about these things in the media or in the newspapers or actually in the social media or whatever it is, that many of the big apartments have become vacant because the employees have moved to their native places. Even it could be villages also, small towns and villages. And since most of the work is actually carried online, so they actually, why unnecessarily give lots of spend money on the rent? So they have moved out. Okay, so 35% of the metro cities have seen vacancy for the houses. And companies are shifting. The norm is companies are shifting from 100% 100 model to 25-25 and 75-75 model. That means what? Earlier it was 100% of the employees have to work and 100% of the time in the office space. Now what they are saying is 25% of the employees at 25% of time is enough. remaining 75% of people and 75% of the time, let them actually work from home. That is how they have actually pushed away people. Then education institutions have actually, because of Corona, they actually just rushed in. It's a sudden influx of more and more institutions are actually getting into online platforms for actually teaching learning process. Okay, and very unfortunately, this data from the Indian government says that 24% of the students are only having access to internet in India. Okay, but higher education students are far better. Overall, that is the rate in India. And the governments have actually come up with standard operating procedures for online classes. The latest entrant will be Tamil Nadu. Then college and university students are better equipped than school students. So this is how actually the things have actually changed. Now, the concept of office. Earlier, it was a geographical space. Now, office as a set of functions to transact business. It doesn't matter whether you are sitting in the office room or whether you are sitting at home. So right now I'm sitting at home and I'm actually doing what I'm supposed to be doing when I'm actually, participating in face-to-face, conference. Okay, so like the same, similarly, everybody is actually from the comfort of the home that we are actually transacting or we are actually trying to learn something in this program conference. So office has gone home now. So there is something good and something which is challenging, okay, that we will be seeing. And next, most of you know this, there is a Bermuda Triangle in the Pacific Ocean, that any flight or actually any ship which actually goes across that will not come on the other side, because there is actually some unexplained, mysterious force which actually sucks everything inside it, and it is considered to be a danger zone, and they avoid going to this triangle. And it is actually believed that many deaths have happened. It is a catastrophe. Okay, devastation happened. So they try to avoid that route. Okay, never cross the Bermuda Triangle. It is very risky. Okay, and that is actually real. You can actually find out. Okay, then now we are also into that kind of a situation. Most of the employees, and why employees, even students, are actually caught in this Bermuda Triangle. All right. So they actually get up from the bed, they eat and they work or they study and again go back to the bed. And they wear the minimum clothing that is actually required. And it is actually, we can say that it is also a Bermuda Triangle, wearing the Bermuda and going around. And this is actually because of the physical lockdown which was imposed. We are actually restrained or actually constrained within the homes, and we are actually working on it. And we don't have any other choice except for actually spending our time in these three areas. So it is also similar to the Bermuda Triangle. Okay. Now, it is not happening most of the time. All right. So is it happening like this? Yes. So this is what expectation. So left is actually expectation and reality is like this. And if you would have actually seen end number of WhatsApp videos or actually memes and all those things, that is actually making fun of how it was earlier and how it is actually now, and how people think on the other side that they will be looking and how they are actually in. All right. And the reason is that we are in a very new world, experimental world. Okay. The house has turned or actually clubbed into office, have become office. Okay. And we have actually limited skills when we are working from home. Okay. And there are challenges. Okay. And earlier it was these two separate entities that from home to office and office to home, it was like this, that devil in the dark sea. Now devil is in the dark sea. Okay, so that is how it is, and it is overwhelming and it actually brings in lots of challenges, particularly for the psychologists who are working in industry. And we think it is actually the corona, because of the corona, that we are doing this. Okay, but we have to have a rethink that we are on the cusp of change. Yes, normal, corona, and actually supposed to be another normal which we are expecting, at least imagining, and how in between there is actually a change. We are in the change, middle of change. Office disappears and appears at home. And it is because of corona. Conveniently, we blame it on corona, but it is not because of corona. Corona is only a catalyst. Before the corona started, already we have equipped with the kind of mobile technology, internet technology, artificial intelligence, deep learning, cloud computing, so many programs, software programs that we have actually evolved. We call it as Internet of Things, evolved, and that has facilitated us to actually switch over to this kind of virtual platforms, functioning in a virtual platform. And Corona is not the reason. It is only what is it? The facilitator, which just nudged us or pushed us to actually work into the online platforms. Okay, and if we were not prepared with the technology, the kind of technology that we had, we would not have actually had this kind of technological transference. Okay, and earlier, this kind of pandemic comes, people don't take home because at home they are at home, and at office they are office. But now we are actually so with Alan that we try to actually switch over back and forth. Okay, not many were lucky, and everything has a pros and cons. That since we are actually working, we actually reduce on the what is the cost of infrastructure on the offices, office space, and actually transportation, commutation, migration, and so many things actually positive things are there, and we are going easy on the planet, demand on the planet. And fortunately, this has helped many of the women to get back to their professions because it is much more convenient because they are the primary caretakers of what is it, the home in many of the countries, many of the cultures, and this kind of what is a arrangement has actually helped many of the women to get on board to work. Okay, and it has psychological problems also and domestic problems. One of the very domestic problem is that the family conflict, the family members actually getting not getting along well, lots of conflicts. And you know that one of the famous thing that people used to say is that 26 years Bill Gates and Melinda Gates were married and they were successfully running their company. And 1 year they worked at home because of the pandemic. They were asked to work from home. They were husband and wife were together for 1 year, and within 1 year they filed for divorce. All right, that is the kind of what is it, difficulty that what is it, this work from home can actually bring in. Not generalizing, but actually lots of family issues actually crop up when all of them are actually together, because many of the families always follow the principle of revolving door. Father goes out, mother is here, mother goes out, father, brother, sister, everybody is not. At no point 100% of the family members are actually at home, only during night. There are not much of interactions. But during the day, only half of the members are there. So it actually reduces, facilitates for easy, what is it, familial business. Now, coming to this trends. So anything which happens in the situation, okay, which happens, they say that need is the mother of all inventions. Okay, so organization psychology, like a bridge, it is there, but the situation is changing. And when the situation is changing, there are certain areas where actually importance, or actually there is a direction, or there is actually some development is happening, and there is a need, and that need has to be fulfilled. Okay, and that there are actually certain pockets in organization psychology. There are actually some 10 20 developments that is actually new trends are actually seen. But actually I'm just giving only 5 because of paucity of time, that I just want to highlight the most important things that is actually happening. And organization psychologists, or actually psychologists in organizations, what can actually they do? So psychology people have the nuts and bolts of the functioning of understanding of the nuts and bolts of the mind, human mind. That we talk about personality, we talk about motivation, we talk about what is it, the learning, we talk about emotions, we talk about so many things about human mind. And with that knowledge, how we are actually going to approach and solve the problem which is actually coming up because of the change in circumstances. So one such area or trend in organization psychology is virtual learning. As more and more organizations and educational platforms or educational institutions are actually coming in, okay, it is the demand from the what is the industry to the psychologist to design, deliver, and assessment of learning outcomes. comes, because psychologists understand the teaching learning process about the individual and what are the things that is actually involved in the teaching learning process. Okay, how it is actually transformed from the teacher to the student and vice versa. Okay, and earlier before Corona came, that it was actually learning management systems. Okay, so now you might be aware or might be using this Google Class. Okay, Google Classroom is a learning management system. Okay, so what happens is that there is a teacher or somebody is there who's in control of things, and the same traditional typical classroom situation is actually mimicked or mirrored through the technology. Okay, so here if you just can see this, that learning management system, the admin controls the content, the teacher controls the content. Okay, the learners follow a learning outline or a routine. The teacher will say that, okay, these are the things that you are supposed to be doing, you do this, you do this, you do this, and they will actually do and submit it. And it is best suited for mandatory training. Compulsorily, you have to attend class in the Google Classroom, or actually Zoom, or actually Microsoft Teams. Okay, there are actually so many platforms which actually uses this learning management systems. Okay, now what happens is, because of the change in the way that things are actually done, that learning experience platforms have come in that to contest that, and it has evolved from learning management system. It is not just learning management, and let us actually curate or actually design or actually tailor their own way of learning and let them get the concepts very clear. For example, most of you might be knowing this Upgrad, then this simple thing is this Byju's. Okay, they are all actually learning experience platforms that students or actually people who are actually wanting to learn, they can actually design or actually decide how to go about and doing, because they have actually 100% control over the things that they are learning and how they can actually set things. So everyone has the power to curate content and the stronger focus on the learning process. The idea is whether the child is learning properly or not. That is more important. Okay, rather than actually following the instructions from the teacher or from the whoever the source. It is actually much more better. It is tailor-made to each and every individual. So virtual learning is one of the area where organization psychologists can actually help the evolve the platforms. So by contributing psychological principles, so that it makes actually more sense and meaningful, and they are connected to the the learning process. Okay, that is one area. The second one is that developing cultures of agility and adaptability. Now you know that if you see the advertisements, that anybody can actually start their own business, right? They have their own actually individual business, family business, or actually they are into anything and everything, and they make actually lots of money by actually doing videos and uploading in the YouTube, and so many things are there. Do it yourself videos, and you can see that thing that is helping in TED and other things, people watching that and actually evolving, right? So here we are in a very strange situation. There is a change, a churn, because there is actually metamorphical change that has actually happened. There are lots of on-roll employees who have been actually made off-roll employees, and there are actually employees who are both on-roll and off-roll. They actually switch between these two things. And now what happens is the skills, the knowledge, and the ability that it was actually required earlier in a physical setup, like a production unit, or actually in a institutional, is actually entirely different. They have to change. And many of the organizations have shed their employees. They have downsized it. They have actually given pink slips and sent them off, retrenched and done. And some of the other companies have actually taken in more number of employees with a different set of skills. So there is actually a big churn that is actually happening. And for this, who will be the right person to help, to source the right kind of people, to actually source the right kind of talent. And the concepts like workforce planning, talent analytics, and management and developmental practices have to be put in place so that the organization works efficiently. So much of opportunity is there for the organization psychologist to design all these things. How will I do it? How will I do this? How will I do this? How will I will plan, and how will I actually analyze the talent? Okay, so performance appraisals. Okay, how to manage, and it is all virtual. That's happening. And now we are in the midst of gig economy. Gig economy is lots of freelance workers are there. You just actually type that I want to do this. There are so many people who are ready to help you out. And short-term contracts. It is actually now what is it? Long-term contracts, or actually what is it? Timeline employment has actually gone, or actually slowly vanishing. Okay, time scale pay and all those things, permanent job and other things are all actually on the wane, and new concepts like freelance workers, short-term contracts, and all those things are actually coming into being. And workers are looked out for their flexibility. Okay, so how much actually they can be flexible, what are the areas that they can actually do. And here we have the chameleon actually putting the what is the engineer cap, that you have to be very flexible. The organization which is very flexible in its structure, okay, in its recruitment process, in its planning process, or in its what is it, getting things done. Okay, only those organizations can actually survive in this kind of situation. And for that, the role of psychologists, the role of people who have the knowledge of human are wanted more. So that is another trend. I think that just try to finish it on time. Okay. And human intelligence over artificial intelligence. And now we are actually in a very interesting situation that uh, sometimes we used to say that the owner of the dog takes the dog for a walk, right? So sometimes actually when they come back, the dog will be actually bringing the owner back to the home, all right? So what happens is the pet will be taken by the owner, and the what is it? The owner will be taken by the pet. Sometimes actually which is taking the other for a walk, we may not know. The same way, artificial intelligence, starting from robotics, okay, so many softwares have come, like or programs have come, like artificial intelligence, deep learning, machine learning, digitization, and automation happening just like that overnight. Actually you can see that, okay, there is actually a huge amount of change that is actually happening. Okay, and earlier these kind of technology was used only by the knowledge workers, and manual workers actually were not required to actually acquire this kind of skills. But now what happens is that even because of the deep learning and machine learning and other things and all, that even manual works are actually carried out by the what is it, the computers. And you can see that what is it, self-driven cars, self-driven aeroplanes, self-driven helicopters, and we call it as drones, self-driven drones, and so many things are actually there here that to stay, and it is actually coming. And even the physical teachers are getting replaced. Teachers are getting replaced, right? And all the things that we thought that, okay, so it will not be replaced. Now it is actually questioned. The situation is questioned. Can this be replaced? Can this be replaced? And we are outsourcing our intelligence to the machines, and machines are becoming smarter and smarter and smarter than us. Okay. And what happens is, if we go on like this, it may not be all that successful. You would have actually seen the conflict between the robots and the human beings. And if you have watched Will Smith's movie I, Robot, or in what is it, the Indian movie Rajinikanth's Robot, that what happens, the emotional aspect, the human aspect, that will be missing. That cannot be actually equated or compensated with the technology, the kind of technology. So psychologists have to actually see to it that they have to contribute that knowledge, that how it can be humanized. Okay, so how it can be humanized. And that is the reason why robots are actually, what is it, made more human-like, so that you feel comfortable in talking rather than actually looking like machine-like. Okay, so that is how this area is also evolving. Okay, then human intelligence is fixed in the artificial intelligence. Okay, then now if you see how our workspace and life space have evolved. Okay, so somewhere around 70 lakh years that human species evolved from the ape like creatures. Okay, so and the modern Homo sapiens that we are right now are having a very short history on this planet. We are just 2 lakh years old. That's it. Before that, we were actually in the process of evolving. Homo sapiens is only roughly around 2 lakh years. And starting from there, what happens? Like we have the house as actually this caves. People were actually living in caves and they were going for hunting. We started as hunters. Then we became gatherers and we became, cultivators. Agrarian revolution came. Then industrial revolution came. Then it became more sophisticated and IT companies came. When IT companies came, then women actually started joining the workforce, because till the time that the computer were actually inducted in the workplace technology, women were actually kept aside. Okay, women were not actually having the prominent role. But once actually the technology was inducted into the mainstream of the industries, women started actually coming, and the concept of work-life balance came. Okay, so if you just see to the right side, how actually different concepts, ideas, hypotheses, theories evolved over a period of time. Okay, the work-life balance, actually the model started with when women entering the office, because they were actually considered to be the primary, or still they are the primary caretakers of home. And when they wanted to come to workplace having a dual role, they found it very difficult to adjust both these things. It is not because of work-life balance, is not because of the men, it is because of the women. And now what happens is, how it has evolved over a period of time, the dwelling place of dwelling also have changed. And now we are actually in a situation that corona comes, then we both actually ran into the house for our safety, right? And now work-life balance model will not help. Work and life has to be integrated. Then only it will be helping us to survive. Okay, because now it is there are actually lots of people complaining that earlier when I was actually working from office, it was very clear cut. Within this time to this time, I was actually more comfortable, and I finish off the work after office. I come completely and focus on housework, or actually spend time with the family. And it was clearly demarcated. There is actually the line which was actually drawn. But now I don't know where to draw the line, because work time is work time also, and home time is also work time also. And students' complaint is that it has got so messed up, and they don't know, because there is no discipline, there is no organized time structures. So now it is time that we think of work-life integration. So now lots of research happening in the area how to actually integrate these two things. As workforce shifted to home, new adaptations are required, handling school children, then personal life, family members, their well-being, the lifestyle components, everything actually got mixed up here. Okay, employee engagement, retention, productivity, and adaptation of healthy behaviors to cope with stress are very important, and it becomes very challenging. When people are coming to the office, it becomes much more easy to deal with them, to give counseling, or actually involve with them to actually sort out, give therapies, give whatever the psychological things that we can actually do. Now online it becomes very difficult, because they are not physically present here, they are somewhere else. So they are into midst of they are into in the cockpit. It's happening, work is happening, family is taken care of, children are there, old family members are there, so many things are actually happening. They are in the midst of the storm, and having these kind of priorities, organization priorities, is a bit challenging. So organization psychologist knowledge is required, so that it can be streamlined, it can be categorized, it can be actually put in place, it can be assimilated, and meaning can be actually brought in. Okay, then finally we have this team effectiveness. And this is one thing that we always thought, that when you talk about team, it is always the physical proximity that we spend and we get to each other. Team is a closely knitted group with 7 to 9 members, maximum 11 members. Okay, so we don't actually call a football group, cricket group, or basketball group. We call them as a team, right? Team means actually a certain number of people, particularly not more than 10 or 11, closely knitted. They are actually complementing, not actually competing. Okay, they are complementing to each other's skills, and they are working together. That is what team is. But now the team is scattered. People are in different places. Different people are in different places. Some organizations are good virtual, okay, to deal with this kind of actually scattered, because they are in virtual space and they are distributed across different environments, and sometimes actually different countries. Okay, and it is the norm that many of the companies that you see that now across cultures, across countries, we have team members. Okay, and how swiftly, how easily or smoothly that we can actually get things done, which is actually mandatory requirement for the organization. It is a big challenge. Some well-placed organizations, technologically advanced organizations can do it, but those organizations which started thinking or started implementing the shift from offline to online mode, they found very difficult, and many of the organizations are actually facing a humongous challenge in catering to this need. Because of that, what happens is that leader will be in one place, manager will be in one place, team members will be in one place, and other people who are related to this will be in different places. Okay, and it is easy for people to control them. Okay, so when you talk about a manager, the role of a manager is planning, organizing, leading, and controlling. Okay, and very similarly, teachers also do that. And if you ask the teachers say the regular classes were far better, or it cannot be compared with the online classes, because I don't know whether the students are there or not, whether actually they are listening to me or not, whether they have actually just switched on there actually and put their photos and actually gone somewhere or not. And sometimes I get a feeling, people, are you there? Hello?
Yes, sir, we are there.
Right. Yeah. So this is what actually I have to cross check, because sometimes actually you give a feeling that I'm actually just sitting in front of the computer and just talking. And very interestingly, last month I read a news in Australia. One professor, actually he was giving a lecture for 1.5 hours. Okay, and he kept his without his knowledge, he has kept his mic in mute. He didn't actually unmute the mic, but he was going for 1.5 hours, and students were actually listening to him. See how it is interesting. Okay, as long as the sound is coming, it is irritable. But if he is actually going on a non-verbal mode, it is fine. So how? And it was an accident, right? But it happened. So what happens is that we are used to a certain way of doing things, and suddenly we are actually changing. And what happens is, it depends on so many factors, starting from the employees, starting from the organization, starting from the clients, starting from the internet, starting from the kind of technology that you use. So many things have to fall in place or have to come in alignment, then only things can happen. For example, here, that if I'm talking, if I don't have an internet connection, then gone. If I'm talking having internet connection, but you don't have internet connection on the other end, gone. All right. So there are actually so many component. That's what we call it as technoference. Okay, it is not interference, it is technoference. Okay, so it is all assisted by the technology. And without this technology, the good thing is that sitting at home, that you are able to connect with people across the country, across the globe. Okay, that's really good, because we are social beings, gregarious in nature, and we love to be with people, to socialize, and that is not possible because of the corona. And at least it is actually saving grace that it actually some alternative, but it cannot be equated with the real offline interactions, face-to-face interactions. Okay, that is more important. And as I said, productivity suffers. And now there is actually a huge demand on the psychologists working in industry, that how do you get things done when getting things done when you're sitting in the office itself is very difficult. There will be lots of people who will be loafing around, that students will be loafing around, workers will be loafing around. You have to actually constantly keep monitoring them, and you have lots of CCTV cameras here, there fixed, but still there are people who pretend that they are actually working, and they get training in the colleges and in the schools, how they actually keep their eyes open and then sleep. And it will appear that they are actually actively listening. The same way employees also actually get into this kind of things, that they pretend that they are working, but ultimately nothing will be there. Okay, so how do you deal with this? Okay, so the virtual and distributed environments in a virtual space, how do you connect with it? So there is a need for psychologists to come up with goal setting. How will you set goals? How skills can be built in the online mode? Then how decisions can be made effectively? How soft skills, particularly communication skills, can be imparted and how it can be facilitated. Okay, how conflicts actually arise because of the technological limitations and how it can be resolved. Okay, and how ultimately how we can actually build virtual teams and sustain the virtual teams. It's many times we actually build teams and build groups, and it will become very difficult because people will run away. And it is a simple example that we would have all experienced is having a WhatsApp group. We would have created a group with 20-25 people, and one after another. In the initial phase, what happens is there will be hectic activity, too much of activity, day, night, and not knowing whether it is day or night. So many activities, so many things are there. And what happens is after few days or few weeks, then people will be actually saying, hi, good morning, good night, hi, good morning, good night. And after some point of time, that also will die off. Okay. And there will be a group which will be redundant, right? And that is how the same thing, the same kind of logic applies to virtual teams also. So how do you actually bring in energy, constantly keep, uh, bringing life into the teams and get the things done? And that is very important because the survival of the organization depends on how effectively that you are getting things done. And if that is not actually possible, then there is actually no way that organizations can survive. Okay, that is actually, these are the trends that which is actually requires the role of psychologists today. Okay, then coming to this, I'm to the final slide that I have come. Situational need evolves the field. So we actually, as a field, as a subject knowledge, we come up with certain knowledge idea. Okay, so we try to understand, okay, predict, and we do all the things and we evolve the theory. And if the theory is actually put into practice, the situation might be very different. And the situation will give us some feedback, a positive, negative, or some other feedback, so that we can actually evolve. And it comes back to the field, the subject, and it evolves. So the trends gives a direction of how things have to move for the particular subject, right? So you, the beginning of the presentation, I showed this Koluteka bridge, okay, and it has become a showpiece of how strong a bridge can be. But the purpose of the bridge is defeated. But here you see that in Wutong in China, they are considering this kind of situation. There can be flash floods, and they have constantly studied all these things, and they have started and they have built a pontoon bridge, okay, bridge on the boat. And whether the water actually flash flood comes suddenly and the water level rises, the bridge will also go up. And when it moves, the bridge will also move. And when the water recedes, the bridge will actually come and settle. And what happens is that the purpose is not lost. The purpose, the same way, organization psychology as a subject, the idea, the purpose, okay, still remains the same. But how it is done, the way it is done changes. That change is actually brought in by the trend and the challenges in the field. Okay, what is actually happening? Okay, and now we know that we have to actually learn, unlearn and relearn all the things that we talk about. It is nothing but the trends and the advances that is actually happening in every field, not only for psychology or organization psychology, right? And so with this, I would like to conclude my presentation. I think that I have taken more time. I'm really sorry about that. And maybe I can field a couple of questions. So thank you so much. And I hope that you would have actually, students mostly, particularly students, would have understood what I tried to convey. Okay. Thank you. Thank you so much for the organizers and for all the people who have been part of this program and people who have attended this program. Thank you.
Thank you,
Thank you
sir.
very much, sir. Thank you. Thank you. We really enjoyed. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, madam. Thank you.
Now it's time for question and answer session. I would kindly request everyone to put up your doubts and clarifications in the chat box such that sir could address to your queries.
So one.
There are several questions, sir.
Yeah. So I can actually see, should I actually read the question and answer that?
Yes, sir, of course you can, or I can also read it for you. And
Yeah, if you want to read, you can always go ahead, ma'am. I don't have any
okay,
issue.
okay. Thank you, sir. Okay, is it possible to work as an organizational psychologist after completing my master's in counseling psychology?
Yes, yes. Because
Okay.
actually, some of the companies actually ask for EAPs, employee assistant programs, where actually they outsource or third-party training is given or third-party counseling is arrangement. You can get into contract with the companies, and they will send the clients, and you can work with them. And the only thing is the psychology field as such, by virtue, there is no exact defined role in every company, every organization. It actually comes camouflaged as HR and actually MSW student, social work, so many things it comes. But actually the core of psychology is also part of it. So you have to establish contact with the organizations that you are actually specialist in, and you can actually give counseling to the employees, and you have necessary skills. Then you can actually enter into a contract, and they will send the clients. So you can always actually do that. It's called as EAPs, employee assistant programs. You can actually make a brochure, and you can actually go and talk to the people. You create your own space, because they don't know, many of the organizations don't know that these kind of things are there. After the pandemic only, many people came to know that there is psychology and counseling is required. They were thinking that any problem is only related to physical problem. Now pandemic created more psychological problem than physical problem, because many of the hospitals are closed for other ailments and people are safe, they are living. But psychological problem only, they are finding it very difficult to handle. Right? And many, in our own university, many calls that we are getting, that family issues have actually become a big headache for the counselors only. Now only they have started realizing after 10 years, 15 years, 20 years, they are coming to know that they have married a wrong person. And after having 2-3 children.
Okay.
Because
All right,
most
thank
of the
you.
time they are spending outside, not with their
Spending
partners.
outside, yes, that's the problem. Right,
Yeah.
sir, another question. Do organizational psychologists get HR jobs in an industrial setting, or do they rank higher than the HR departments?
It depends on two things. That what is the specialization? In Madras University, you have HR specialization. Okay, in Christ University also HR specialization is there. But many of the organizations, they are not aware that organization psychologist or HR psychology people can actually get involved. Right. So if there is actually already a person who has the knowledge of psychology, employee psychology or workplace psychology or business psychology, they will prefer psychologists, because if a HR guy and a psychology HR guy, psychology background HR guy, just an MBA HR guy is only a driver, but psychology HR guy is a mechanic, car mechanic, whom they will prefer. But they are not aware of that. They will always think that, okay, driver is enough for the car. Because they don't get into the nuts and bolts of the functioning of the human mind. But psychologists have an edge. If they have an understanding, definitely they will call. Or you have to convince them in the interview or talk to them and explain how important necessity that this is required. Okay, so because what the contribution that we give is mostly intangible, not tangible. We are not actually like a carpentry or actually like masonry or like anything that we can show them. Okay, this is what we have. We actually give the experience. So we have to do the talking first. So definitely there is opening.
Right. Sir, one very basic question asked by a student. After BSc Psychology, what should I do to become an organizational psychologist after going abroad?
You want to go abroad?
Yes, one of the students.
Yeah, then there are actually in European countries and America and other places, okay, Western countries, there are actually courses on organization psychology. Like any other course that you take up, you just go and join that course.
All right. Sir, another question. Do we need RCI certification to become organizational psychologist? No. All right. Which
But now only because of the
post-graduation?
pandemic only, even clinical psychologists have woken up because of the pandemic, because so many other people are coming in, like trespassers and gate crashers, they are coming. So now they realize we should have RCA.
Yes.
Okay, and they wanted to actually define their boundary. And there is actually a contrary view that if you are bounding yourself within the boundary that this is the field that clinical psychologists should be working in clinical fields, then morally you cannot actually go beyond the boundary that you have set in for, like industry, counseling, and other places, training and development, and all the other fields. Clinical psychologists should not actually come and poke their nose there. Will they stop doing that?
Right. Sir, a number of
clinical psychology is very small circle in the need for human psychology service.
Right, absolutely. Sir, a number of questions putting forward by different students that they're asking that from different backgrounds, like from counseling psychology or clinical psychology or BTech, from those backgrounds, if they can come to industrial and organizational psychologists.
Yeah, they can always see. What happens is at a master's level, have an applied psychology degree. At the master's level, have an applied psychology. If you're not having an HR psychology, at least have an applied psychology degree and go for an internship in an industry. Okay, and do MPhil or PhD in industrial area. And you can actually develop all the necessary skills. Then you can always actually get into this kind of thing, because the field is in India, the field is loosely defined, or there is no definition. Anybody who can actually bring in the cure, he is actually the person looked for. So it is you who have to actually explain and actually decide and actually achieve the whatever that you have in your mind.
Right. Sir, another question, probably the last question we can take for now.
Yes.
What is the kind of salary structure of an average IO psychologist in India and abroad?
Yeah, this is exactly the starting itself. We say the data hai. That starting only is data. Before you actually apply, you put the application for psychology, and you think, what will be my salary? Are you working to, are you investing on yourself to become qualified for that? Or actually you are actually having a carrot, okay, hung in a stick, and you are chasing that carrot? There are people who are earning 1 lakh rupees for 1 hour session in organization training. Okay, there is 1 hour, 1 lakh rupees. I have actually myself seen and actually been part of that program. Okay. And interestingly, there are people for the whole month, they don't even get 10,000 bucks. Because that is the kind of, so ultimately what happens is it boils down to your own ability, skill, and knowledge, or whatever that you have in the field. Since the field is loosely defined, or there is no definition of the field, whatever you quote, that is the ultimate. And if the other person thinks that you are worth it, they employ. There will be lots of negotiations. There will be lots of contracts. There will be so much things. But in Western countries, definitely a decent amount, which varies. Okay, which vary. I cannot actually say that. Okay, so per month you will actually get $1 lakh per month. And JK sir told, and I went to America, and now these people are now cheating me. He only told, no, anything which is actually decent will be there, because there the field is defined, and the minimum number of amount is already fixed per hour. Actually, few $100 have been fixed already for the service. So definitely you will get that. But here it depends on how you can sell yourself, how you can really genuinely bring in the kind of change that they are expecting, the management is expecting from the workers. If we can actually deliver that, then you fix the salary for yourself, remuneration
Right.
for yourself.
Right. Thank you very much, sir, for this very, very interesting lecture. We thoroughly enjoyed actually your, I myself thoroughly enjoyed actually your lecture, sir. And thank you for, summarizing everything, all the trends that are happening in the IO psychology these days, in the new normal, and how we all can, all the students of psychology who are there, who can actually, enhance their own skills to get there. So thank you very much, sir, for shedding light on this. I really thank you again on the behalf of all the organizers who we are here. Okay, thank you, sir.
So thank you so much, madam, for facilitating this session. And thank you for all the participants, and all the best to all of you. Thank you.